sharing about the Straits of Malacca. He's a collector of antique maps of Malaysia, as you might expect, also Singapore and Hong Kong. He's very much an expert on British Admiralty hydrographic charts, and has spoken quite a lot in recent years, such as at Cambridge University, on that kind of cartography. There's a lot more I could say about you, Julian, but then I'd be stealing your time away from you. So I'd much rather hear what you have to say about this Norrie Sea chart. Over to you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, I can see Tom. Okay, I can see my slides. Thank you for coming to my talk.
Tom and your slides.
Thank you for coming to my talk. I'm going to talk about the Straits of Malacca with reference to one particular sea chart, the 1831 Norrie Sea chart of the Straits of Malacca in Singapore. You can move to the chart itself, Tom. Okay. It's a sea chart. Very, very rare. In the 12 years of collecting, I've only seen 2 copies of it privately. There's one on sale in London at one of the dealers. So the Straits of Malacca simplistically connects the Bay of Bengal with the South China Sea. To the, depending how you look at it, it bisects the island of Sumatra and Peninsular Malaysia. If you don't know where Sumatra and Malaysia is, you have larger problems in life. I think you need to look at the phone. Now, the name Straits of Malacca is quite a strange one because Malacca was only founded in the 1400s. And yet the Chinese, the Persians, the Arabs, the Indians have been sailing through that passageway for at least 2,000 years. So I'm still doing some work to figure out what was it called before the 1400 when Malacca didn't exist. So it's an English sea chart. And it was used for trade. Ships trading used it to navigate the Straits of Malacca. And it connected on the left in the Bay of Bengal in Calcutta, the headquarters of the East India Company, where the Governor General resided, with China. And this is the barbell linking these 2 great ancient civilizations, China and India. The chart, if you go to the next page, Tom. Okay, the chart is dated 1831. The genesis of this chart is before the founding of Singapore in 1803. So it starts with the heather chart in 1803, and I draw your attention to the shape of Singapore. Singapore was founded by Stamford Raffles in 1819. So you have this ugly lumpen shape here in this heather chart 1803 with the wrong spelling of Singapore, right? With the S-I-N-C. If you flip to the next page, you see how it has evolved. You have a slightly better shape, still of course completely wrong. Remember, these are sea charts. They are not land. The shape of the land was less important. It's more the location of the port and how you get the path getting to the port. So obstacles, soundings, etc. So the spelling of Singapore is still wrong. This is 1815, 4 years before Raffles founded Singapore. So we move to the final, we move to the next page. Now this is my chart, the 1831. It's got the complete revised, accurate shape of Singapore. In my mind, this is the more valuable chart, obviously, and the more significant chart. Raffles founded Singapore in 1819, so 1831, 1819, 12 years they had to do the geography correct. Next page, please. No idea why I have this here. If you go to the next page. Okay, maybe we go back to the map, the very first page. Okay, this map again. So you can see the sandbanks and the sounding along the lower part of the Straits of Malacca. So it's almost like a funnel. when you come from the north to the south, it's clear passage, and then it narrows and the sandbanks are a disaster. So if you think back to the age of this, 1831 is kind of the handing over point, right, between sail and steam. When there was no steam and you had to use sail, and you didn't sail at night for a start, there were pirates, you dropped anchor. And then when there was no wind, you couldn't sail. So it was a very difficult passage to navigate. Steam, of course, changed all that. And steam came concurrently with a couple of other factors that caused trade between China and India through the East India Company, through the Straits of Malacca to go bonkers. So the private traders started getting involved, and that increased the velocity of trade. Demand in Europe for tea, porcelain, silk grew. Other countries like the newly independent America joined the trade. So quite a few factors, intrinsic, extrinsic, cause the demand for goods, and hence the maritime trade, hence the necessity to have accurate and updated charts. So this is one of the more updated charts. We talked earlier about Singapore. So you have the inset on the bottom left that has Singapore that the British had in 1819. But 30 plus years earlier in 1786, again, an agent of the East India Company obtained Penang. So the inset on the top right corner, which is at the northern end of the straits. So by 1831, the British controlled the straits, the north and the south. Now, let me. This chart, in a sense, was the best information of the time. If we go back again to what was going on in Europe during the French Revolution and the French invasion of Holland, the Dutch government left Holland and were operation in the UK. The Dutch possessions in the Straits, namely Malacca, were handed over for safekeeping to the British. Then post the Napoleonic Wars, the Dutch and the British sat down and hashed this out. The Dutch also were not happy with Singapore being obtained by the British in 1819. In their opinion, they had preemptive rights. So there was an 1824 agreement, another one of these Anglo-Dutch agreements, of which next year is the 200th year anniversary. And I'm sure I will lend some maps to some of the regional exhibitions commemorating this anniversary. So there was an anniversary in 1820, sorry, there was an agreement in 24, basically splitting up the Malay Empire. So everything south of Singapore was Dutch. So the British gave Bencoolen, where Raffles was based, to the Dutch. The Dutch gave them, they didn't question the British occupation of Singapore and gave them Malacca. So everything on the Peninsula Malacca portion became British. Everything on the Sumatra side, Java side became Dutch. So in case you're interested, if we move 2 slides, please, 3 slides to the books. Now I know why the books are there. So maps in Southeast Asia, there are 3 Bibles. Most of you would know Thomas Suarez. This early mapping of Southeast Asia is one of the Bibles. 2/3 of it is pre-Ortelius. So just to give you an idea of the timeline, David Parry, the book on the right, David Parry lives in Indonesia and wrote this, I think 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Again, it's got a very different perspective. And he has some very rare maps, which he was able to buy then, you can't buy now. These 2 books are iconic. I think you can't find them these days almost. Next page, please. So this was written by a businessman in Malaysia. It has practically all the maps of Malaya and Borneo, so a very narrow focus, and of course, some of the key maps of the Straits of Malacca. So I've intentionally kept it, that's all. I've intentionally kept it, actually it's close to 9 minutes. So We have a minute more for questions. If anyone want to, kick off.
Either unmute people or ask on the chat. I can't see anything on the chat, Julian.
Oh, that's good.
Right. Please do remember this facility. Our presenters are eager to answer questions. We've got one or two, but I'm holding them back because of their substance until we actually have the final questions. So thank you very much, Julian, for
No problem. Thank
this
you.
overview. And I've written down some reading matter for myself as a result of this.